What's up, everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob. Today I have for you Glenfiddich IPA. It's bottled at 43%. That's IPA as in IPA beer, the very hoppy tasting beer that tends to be on the bitter side, which a lot of craft breweries like making. A lot of big beer fans are a huge fan of IPA beer. Okay, so what Glenfiddich did, as we know, Glenfiddich is a Speyside whiskey. Glenfiddich teamed up with a Speyside brewery that crafts small batch beer and that sort of thing, and Glenfiddich had them make 3 different types of blonde beer. Blonde is the lighter colored beers. Okay, the amber beers are of course a little darker, and then the dark beers are extremely dark, like your Guinness or your Kilkenny or those types of things. Actually, maybe Kilkenny is not a dark beer, or they have an option, I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, this is an IPA beer that's blonde, so it's a lighter beer, but it's still got that hoppy, bitter taste. They had them craft 3 different types of beer. They aged them in their own barrels for various amounts of time, and then they switched the beer for whiskey and aged that for a certain amount of time, and this is the result. Okay, the master blender decided to take various amounts from various barrels of the 3 different types of beer that the company produced. Okay, so very interesting stuff. Glenfiddich is starting this new experimental series. They have the IPA, they have the Project XX that I've already done. That's the first 2. They're gonna probably release a bunch more if this continues to be a success. This hasn't come out in Ontario yet. It will be coming out in the new year, likely to combat the Macallan edition number 2, which will also be coming out in the new year in Ontario. So they'll be going at each other head to head, because they're both non-age statement, and they're both different types of whiskey that we're not exactly used to. The edition number 2 I'm going to be reviewing in the new year. My next few reviews will be the Dalmore 18, the Glengoyne 25, and then I'm likely going to finish off my Glenfiddich series over here that I have on my table. So Glenfiddich the original and Glenfiddich 15-year-old Distiller's Edition. Alright, so that should cap off my year. If I have any more time, I'll squeeze a couple more of the samples in. But then for the new year, like I said, I got the Macallan number 2. Alright, I also have Macallan 12-year-old double cask coming in from the United States for me. My sister-in-law is bringing it over. So I have a whole bunch of stuff lined up that's going to be really exciting for the new year, but I also have a whole bunch of stuff to cap off this year. Okay, and like I've said in previous reviews, I will be revealing my whiskey of the year likely closer to the new year, so probably between December 26th and December 31st. Alright, so stay tuned for that as well. I'm going to nose it, taste it, and give it a mark. As you can see, it's not quite pale yellow, but a couple shades darker than that. Alright, you wouldn't be able to tell on the nose that this was aged in beer barrels. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to nose it, taste it, and give it a mark. It's bottled at 43%. The Project XX is bottled at 47%, so a little bit different there. Okay. Very fruity on the nose. A ton of fruit, actually. Some lemon, apple. Super sweet. You can tell that this is originally a bourbon aged whiskey, so ex-bourbon barrels, and then they switched it over to the beer casks for a set amount of time to finish it, because it has that strong vanilla, a little bit of banana from the bourbon casks. Not very much alcohol burn whatsoever on the nose. It's got some nice legs to it. So, based on the nose, I'm going to say that it's probably 13, 14 years old, maybe a little bit older, maybe closer to 15. I would say the average is likely 14 years old, actually. Maybe 13. So, probably some 12, probably some 13, probably some 14, probably some 15, maybe not the 15. It's interesting, it changes every time you bring your nose to it. Pick up something different. You get that grassy note that you don't often get in a Glenfiddich. That malty, grassy note. That's probably where the beer influence is coming in. Okay, on the palate. It's surprisingly smooth. Pretty viscous. It's a tremendous upgrade from the 12-year-old. So let's say they took their 12-year-old whiskey and they used that for this, for the beer barrels. That's kind of what this tastes like. It tastes a lot older than 12 years old. It's really smooth compared to an average 12-year-old. The nose can be somewhat of a, it can mask being younger or older, but when it comes to the palate, it's often difficult to hide how old something is, and this definitely tastes older. I would say I'm definitely leaning more towards 15 and older now, 14 and older now, sorry. Possibly to replace the 14-year-old whiskey that they released not too long ago. This is really good. Super sweet. You get banana, you get apple, get a little bit of citrus in there. Can't really identify whether it's like a lemon or something a little sweeter. Honestly, I don't taste the bitterness from the IPA beer at all. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think if anything, the beer casks made this sweeter than what it would normally be, because it's very sweet. It's not much oak, but just enough to give it that little bit of a cinnamon finish. It's actually really good. I'm gonna say that this might even be better than the Project XX. I'm not 100% sure. I would have to taste them side by side, but this is surprisingly, in my I was skeptical about liking this one because of the IPA. I'm not a huge fan of IPA beer. I think it's a little too bitter. I like it at first, like maybe the first half beer, and then I'm kind of done with it after that. Whereas over here, you're not getting any of those bitter notes from the IPA beer. Like I said, it feels like it only picked up the sweetness of the beer. And it really carries through with that sweetness on the palate. Okay, you could tell that it was gonna be sweet from the nose, but it's super sweet. But not like sweet to the point where you're not gonna enjoy it. It's a good dram. I'm really impressed. Couple more sips and then I'm gonna give this a mark. Super smooth. Coats the tongue. It's actually surprisingly viscous. Like, it's thicker than I would have expected. And I don't think it's, I know it's not unchill filtered. So, it's pretty impressive. I'm gonna have to give this an 8. This is good stuff. I'm not sure what the price is. That might factor in. But at the moment, if I had to guess, I know that it's relatively inexpensive in the UK and the US, so I'm gonna guess that it's gonna come in around 100 to 120 bucks in Ontario at the LCBO, and for that price, it's very good stuff. Now, if I had to compare it to what you can buy for that price range, like the Malt Masters Edition Glenfiddich, I still would lean towards the Malt Masters Edition just because I like that sherry influence as well, and you're not getting the sherry influence here, but this is excellent stuff. Definitely very original. It's the first time a company's decided to use craft beers to age their whiskey in, and I think it's a great success. I was apprehensive, to say the least, about the IPA, but I'm happy now that I can give it a great mark because it's worthy of it. And yeah, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend that you go out and buy a bottle. Okay, so that's an 8 for me. Like I said, coming up next, we got Downmore 18-year-old. We got Glengoyne 25-year-old. Perhaps this is going to be my next Friday because I want to have some time with this to make sure it's getting the best treatment possible. So Glengoyne 25-year-old is probably going to be next. This is probably going to be the week after. Then if I have time, I'll do 1 or 2 of the Glenfiddichs that I have back there. If not, I'll do my whiskey of the year, and then going into the new year, we'll do the Glenfiddichs. The 2 Macallans that I said, the edition number 2 and the 12-year-old Doublewood. Then we'll go through a bunch of these samples that I have here that I got to get to, and I think next year is shaping up to be an excellent year already, guys. Okay, so stay tuned. Thank you for subscribing if you've already done so. If you haven't and you're new to this channel, check out the channel, see if it's something you like, subscribe below. At Whisky in the 6 on Instagram, at Whisky_in_the_6 on Twitter, and on Facebook I'm under Rob Reviews. Cheers, guys.